Welcome back to another episode of Wild Sports. I'm Fu, got my boy Sean here with me,
What up?
and we are going to preview
Preview.
the
We're
Alabama
not reviewing
Michigan.
that damn game again.
We can go over the SEC championship game if you want to. We're going to review this one right here. Is it in the screen for you, Sean?
Yeah, it's in the screen. I can see
The granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl, Pasadena, California. I was lucky enough to go back there in the 2009, the last time we played Texas out there. It's the mecca of college football, man. The Rose Bowl. I think it's the most iconic stadium. And it's a big one. It's a battle of the blue bloods. Old school stuff here. Alabama, Michigan. You got the big names. Michigan coming in at a 1.5 point favorite over Alabama. Over under sitting at 44.5. So what I'm seeing. I think we're in for an interesting one here. Obviously, I think some keys to the game here. Looking at Michigan when they've got the ball. So the Michigan offense, I think a pretty balanced attack there. I think they really like to play kind of old school football. Set up the pass game with the run game. They like to play a little bully ball. I know they've got a great offensive line.
I think it's like the fourth year in a row they've been in the Final Three for that
Joe
top
Moore.
offensive line. Thank you.
The Joe Moore Award, yeah.
Yes.
Old Cole Kubelik loves to talk about the Joe Moore Award. He's used to play for Auburn. He's on Sports Talk Radio in Alabama. I think they rely heavily on that. They really like to run the ball. Got a good passing game as well. J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. It's not the Washington or the big time high flyers with passing, but they do throw the ball. And they've done it well this year. Looking at scoring offense-wise, they average 36.7 points per game, so very respectable in that sense. And looking at it on Alabama on defense, I mean, it's been a stout defense. A team that's given up 18.4 points per game, which, looking back to years past, that seems like kind of a lot in the years that we were just dominating defensive wise, but in this day and age in college football, that's solid. Especially when you look at some of the offenses that we've played this year. A key stat that I saw was Alabama has only allowed an average of 8.4 points in the second half. So
Gotta love those adjustments.
Yeah, Kevin Steele, defensive coordinator, along with Coach Saban's done a great job of second half adjustments. I think this Michigan offense is going to have to get out quick, get out early, get out often. And it'll be interesting. Alabama has the 33rd ranked rush defense in the country, so they don't allow a lot of rushing. So it'll be interesting. Can you shut down the run? Can you not, like we said, the rushing game opens up a lot. So if you can shut down that run game, and really force them to become a pass heavy offense, how effective does that offense become? Any thoughts there?
So Michigan, we already talked about J.J. McCarthy a little bit. I think 19 total passing touchdowns seems like a little low for how hyped of a prospect / just player in general he has been. 22 total touchdowns if you include his rushing. 2,600 yards on the season. It's not terrible. Only 4 picks. He protects the football.
Yeah.
It's who's he protecting it from? Defenses that aren't that good in my opinion.
Yeah.
Blake Corum, 1,000-yard rusher, 24 touchdowns on the ground this year. Very solid season. I think it was 2 years ago. It might have been last year, but I think it was 2 years ago. He was in the Heisman running before getting hurt. So he's a very good back. The one thing about him, though, is he's got zero receiving threat. They don't
Yeah.
use him as a receiver at all. So if you give a defense like Alabama and you see Blake Corum in the backfield or in shotgun or whatever, you can almost like negate that player altogether. He's either running the ball or you don't have to worry about him at all. So that's, I mean, I think it's pretty dangerous for a defense like Alabama. Their leading receiver is Roman Wilson. Only has about little under 700 yards on the season, 11 touchdowns. So 11 of the 19 touchdowns have gone to him in the air. A player that doesn't have that many stats, but is the typical Alabama killer. And by I say killer, I mean like we'll have, a decent game against them, is Sanaj Morgan. He has very little stats, but he's their running receiver threat, and it's always those trick plays that come out in the playoff games. I think he might have a big play or two, but other than that, I don't really see. I'm very intrigued by the defensive line versus Michigan's offensive line battle. If y'all can win that battle and defend the run well, I don't think J.J. McCarthy has much success on Bama's defense. I mean, that's kind of the breakdown of Michigan's offensive, players to look out for. If you want me to jump into the Bama guys real quick.
Yeah.
So we got, of course, we've been talking about Milroe all year. The absolute X factor of this offense. 3,000 plus total yards, 23 passing, 12 rushing touchdowns. So 35 total touchdowns responsible for. You got McClellan, who I think, will just keep the defense modest and it'll allow the Milroe to run the show. Do I think he's going to come out and have 200 rushing yards or even 150 rushing yards? I really don't. But I see him having like 80 plus and keeping the defense modest enough to let Milroe do his thing. Y'all's leading receivers, obviously, someone who will be unnamed. I'm just joking. It's Jermaine Burton. He had a pretty good year. When you get 777 yards on 35 catches, pretty good season. He did get 8 touchdowns on the season, and I'm going to go ahead and guarantee a touchdown this game.
I'll take it
because he's a big game player. I'm not guaranteeing 2.
Okay.
He might get 2. I'm not going to guarantee it.
Okay.
But he's a big game receiver. He shows up in big games.
Yeah.
One team stat I saw that I wanted to bring up was what is like one thing, especially early on in the season, that you and I complained about most with Alabama?
Turnovers?
That might be the one you complain about most. The lack of sacks.
Yeah.
The lack of sacks. They have 5 more sacks than Michigan does on the year. So imagine like us complaining about the lack of sacks Bama's defense is getting, and they've still outsacked one of the one of the best defenses in college football this year. I think Bama has at least 4 sacks this game.
I'll take that.
I think that might be all I got. I did not realize that y'all don't use your receivers in the run game at all. There's not that one guy that you give sweeps to or anything along that line.
No,
that's like.
I have to say, I mean, I think, getting into kind of hitting on the Alabama offensive stuff, again, I think Milroe's, just like we said, he's gotten better and better and better. And I think he's really established using his feet the way that he needs to use them. And I think Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator, has done a great job of implementing that. It's not just a drop back and take off run. He's worked in some, draws, quarterback draws, read. He's actually started, I think, going into like the LSU game. Milroe had only kept like 6 read options, so I don't even think they were really like read options.
Right.
And he kept them in the LSU game, and he went all. I think he had 100,
like 200 something,
200 yards rushing or something crazy. So I think we've done a really good job of Alabama's offense is not like Michigan. We're not just going to line up. I mean, we play, in essence, a little bit of bully ball, but it's out of the shotgun. It's not the line it up, under center, come downhill kind of old school ball like Michigan plays. We spread you out. It's more of the modern style bully ball rush offense, but you've got that X factor. And I think that's a huge key in this game is that you've got to have those guys that can just absolutely change a football game. And, I'll get into kind of overview at the end, but I just don't see that on Michigan's side. I think that receiver is probably their biggest threat as far as a game changer. But anyway, just, you get Jace McClellan-Black. You've got Jam Miller, who's really come in strong at the end of the year. Supposedly he's the fastest guy on the team, a running back. Guy caught the little swing ball against Shelton, not bringing that up, but just a guy that can really make plays, big-time plays. You got Jermaine Burton, a guy that you saw take over the Texas A&M games. You've got these things, you've got these playmakers that can absolutely take over a game. And given it, Michigan has a solid defense, actually a great defense statistic-wise. But like you said, the competition that they played this year, maybe patting it a little bit, but it's not to discredit what they've got. I think
correct, right.
When I look at statistics-wise, I think they had a little bit easier, test in the classroom. But I was looking back at some of their games just a little bit, and their defense is what really won them these games against Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State, Iowa. They're big games. I know Iowa's offense is terrible, but
right. Still, they still did what they had to do, though. Right.
So, I'm looking at those games, and they forced turnovers, and that's one thing that we have not seen a lot out of Milroe since the beginning of the year is turnovers. So I think that's going to be a key to it. Is Milroe can't go back to making mistakes because that'll lose you football game, especially in a big game like this. Turnovers are a lot of times end up being the deciding factor.
You don't got to tell me.
So kind of an overview of the thing before we get into predictions. I know I'm biased here, but obviously, this is the first time all year I felt really, really strong about Alabama going into a football game. Very confident. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but when I look back at it, I see what Michigan has done offensively in winning these games, and I don't think that's how you beat Alabama. This season shows me if you're going to beat Alabama, it's not defensively. It's going to be you're going to have to play good defense, but you've got to have that excellent offense to match that defense. I mean, look at Texas this year. They forced some turnovers, but they played excellent offense. They were hitting deep balls. Every time we would score, they would answer back. They jumped out quick, got up on us early. Every time we tried to get back in it, we took the lead. They went back the next possession, hit, a deep ball. We scored, then they hit a deep ball again. So it's and I can look back in the history of things too, and it's always been somebody has just absolutely taken over a game, or they've just, Trevor Lawrence's, all these guys, Deshaun Watson's, these guys that have taken over. And I think that's probably the history of the playoff, not just Alabama. I think somebody takes over a football game. And I don't see that on Michigan's offense. I don't see it. I mean, I'm looking at when they played Ohio State, J.J. McCarthy had 148 yards and a touchdown. Efficient, but nothing. Blake Corum had 88 yards. What was the big one I saw? Penn State. J.J. McCarthy had 60 yards passing, and Blake Corum had 145 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. I don't think that's not how you're going to beat Alabama, I don't think. So I just don't see that, and I don't see them being able to just push around our defense and run for 300 yards. So I
think the only way that Michigan has crazy success offensively is if they go against all their tendencies.
But how do you do that at the end of the year,
Exactly. I'm 100%
How do you get away from what got you where you're at?
You can't. You cannot.
But do they? They might.
Because
Corum,
like athletes? I said, I think has 3 catches on the year, Corum. I think he has 3 catches.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Because when you don't have to worry out of the backfield, I mean, that frees up a lot of guys there.
Yes.
That frees up a blitzer. That frees up an extra coverage man. I mean, that's a huge
If it's 3rd and 3 and you see Corum in the backfield, you know he's there to either block or you can go ahead and just be like, all right, I can kind of spy here. And if I see him go on a route, I can just kind of shadow it. Let them beat you. Not when I say let them beat you, I mean for a first down before I finish this statement. Let them beat you before you commit to covering Corum on a receiving route.
Yeah, I'm with you. Show that they're going to go there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and like I said, like you said, you have those playmakers that always the way you beat Bama is having that guy kind of show up and go crazy and so on and so forth. And the only guy I see that, I mean, obviously Roman Wilson's their leading receiver, and he's a good deep threat, and he's a great receiver.
Yeah,
but it's that guy that has multiple threats, and that's why I think if you don't let Morgan pull out any hoo-has, I don't see any problems.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alabama's front 7 is great. I think the back end is really good. You've got Kool-Aid McKinstry, who's, I've seen go in top 10 in the next year's NFL draft, along with Caleb Downs, who's a safety who is SEC player, all freshman everything. Terrion Arnold, another great guy who's probably going to end up being a first rounder. So you've got a lot of talent over there on the defensive side of the ball. And, I think Michigan has a solid defense, but, this Alabama offense has become powerful. It is not the Alabama offense that we saw the first year. I mean, we've seen what they've done, the last half of the year, and it's been pretty dominant and scary, to be honest. But it's why you play the game. And I think, and like I said, I don't think Michigan can be taken lightly. I know I'm talking – they're here for a reason. They haven't had a scare.
TCU lightly last year.
Yeah. Anyway. But they haven't had any scares. I mean, they beat everybody like they should have. The games, they got into games against Penn State, rightfully so. Maryland, I think, was a good football team. They got in the football game there. Great offense. And handled Ohio State, the big test of the year, the biggest game of the year. They handled it. Blew out Iowa in the, Big Ten championship. So they're here for a reason. And I think the way they stay in this game is their defense with the turnovers. Because they force turnovers in the big games. Kyle McCord threw 2 of them.
He sucks.
Yeah. Tua's brother threw 2 interceptions. Penn State, I don't even think tried to throw the football. I think that was just a running affair.
Yeah, I think that was the same week that Georgia played Ole Miss, and we were watching it at the bar before the game, and
that was a boring football game. It was old school.
It's like they weren't even trying to beat Michigan, is what I was saying during.
Yeah, it was like So I think that's what keeps them in it, but I don't think it's going to keep. I don't think they're going to be in it. So predictions.
Prediction time.
I've got 31-20 Bama. What do you got?
So you've got Bama covering plus 1.5, and then the over of 44.5. I have 34-17 Alabama.
So you agree with me on this game?
Yeah, I like I said, I see them. I don't see this game being a problem. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find a way Michigan beats Alabama. And the only way I see it is if
McCarthy protects the football. He's only thrown 4 picks all year, but I'm
he's a
almost
Greg
guaranteed a pick
McElroy,
this
dude.
year.
I bet if you look up Greg McElroy's stats, the national championship year, I bet you they're eerily similar. What do you think?
I almost want to guarantee a pick this week or this game.
Let's see what Greg McElroy's stats were in 2000.
So McCarthy's were 26-30, 19 touchdowns, and 4 picks with 3 rushing touchdowns.
I am all over this. The year that McElroy won the national championship, he had 2,500 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions.
Yep.
So that's why, and not to say he's a bad quarterback, but he's not that. He's a manager.
Right, so we'll see him on.
And did you see Jim Harbaugh said that Jalen Milroe was a well-polished, like whoever their Michigan's backup quarterback is? He basically said that he reminded him of their backup quarterback. So,
well, not to add fuel to the fire,
bulletin board material.
Terry's a Michigan fan.
Oh, Terry. Why didn't you tell me that at the beginning of the video? Terry. Isn't he like an everything fan, though?
Yes, but he's definitely a Michigan fan.
Terry, man.
He lived in Detroit for a while, so.
Terry, I know you're watching this one then. Go ahead. Let me know. Let me know what you
put your score
thinking.
prediction down, pal.
Let's see how confident you are in the maize and blue. So, again, y'all let us know what you think. Put your predictions down there. How are y'all feeling about it? Y'all like, comment, subscribe. Till next time, roll Tide.